This is a very big topic, creative people and mental health. I'm just going to be touching on a few points. To begin with, Tim Burton has been acclaimed for his films, including Alice in Wonderland, but has also been called crazy, in part for his appearance, or at least eccentric, perhaps a polite cover label for mad. But he's even exploited that kind of reaction. And he said, if you want people to leave you alone, then appearing to be crazy is a good thing. If you're walking down the street talking to yourself, people tend to give you a wide berth. But I've always been blessed with being easily ignored or avoided. I like his perspectives. I think a lot of times we call ourselves crazy in a very self-critical way. There was a recent Huffington Post Live program called A Brilliant Sacrifice, and part of the program description said, a new study confirms that certain mental disorders are linked to creative genius. Well, this is an enduring notion and often mythology that creativity is linked to disorder. The mythology of the mad artist continues in various forms. It's actually supported by to some extent by research. For example, there are studies indicating writers are more susceptible to depression. One of the speakers in that video is Judith Schlesinger, who notes that a widely circulated Swedish study mentioned in the program has what she says are significant issues in terms of scientific validity. She's also commented in an article of hers that, quote, there's still no concrete empirical proof that highly creative people are any more likely to be mood disordered than any other group. I don't really agree fully with her opinion. As I just mentioned, there are studies that show writers are more susceptible to depression. Still, she does raise some important criticisms of research. Another quote of hers from her article, quote, a careful look at the so-called landmark studies in the field, work by psychiatrists Nancy Andreasen and Arnold Ludwig, and psychologist Kay Redfield Jamison, reveals gaping holes in their design, methodologies, and conclusions. Another researcher who writes and talks a lot about creativity is cognitive psychologist Scott Barry Kaufman. He made this interesting comment, quote, I do believe that if the mental processes associated with psychosis were evaporated entirely from this world, art would suck. So, a great quote. He also notes that psychosis is on a continuum, and that too much psychosis and one is at high risk of going mad. But everyone, he says, engages in psychosis-related thought anytime they use their imagination. This type of thought activates particular regions of the brain and is especially prominent while daydreaming and night dreaming. Creativity researcher Dean Keith Simonton notes, quote, "Few creative individuals can be considered truly mentally ill. Indeed, outright disorder usually inhibits rather than helps creative expression. Furthermore, a large proportion of creators exhibit no symptoms, at least not to any measurable degree." But we still have this ongoing mythology that creativity is a divine madness, as Plato put it, and that madness of some kind is a fuel for creativity. One of the dangers of this idea is that we may consider ourselves, quote, "not crazy enough" to be creative, or that our mental health challenges, such as anxiety and depression, should be endured in order to, quote, "protect our creative power." Musician Sting admits he bought into the myth for a long time. He said, "Do I have to be in pain to write? I thought so, as most of my contemporaries did. You had to be the struggling artist, the tortured, painful, poetic wreck." He goes on, "I tried that for a while, and to a certain extent that was successful. I was the king of pain, after all. I only know that people who are getting into this archetype of the tortured poet end up really torturing themselves to death." Another issue here is misdiagnosis of creative people and giftedness characteristics. In his article, Misdiagnosis and Dual Diagnosis of Gifted Children, Dr. James Webb notes, quote, "Many gifted and talented children and adults are being misdiagnosed by psychologists, psychiatrists, pediatricians, and other healthcare professionals as having ADHD, OCD, mood disorders, and other conditions." He says, "These common misdiagnoses stem from an ignorance among professionals about specific social and emotional characteristics of gifted children, which are then mistakenly assumed by these professionals to be signs of pathology." It's really helpful to be informed about giftedness traits, even if you're a creative person, whether or not you think you're creative. Or whether or not you think you're gifted, I should say. Anxiety is another mental health or personality challenge that probably most creative people, even creative people in general, face. Creativity coach Eric Maisel notes, "Only a small percentage of creative people work as often or as deeply as, by all rights, they might be expected to work. What stops them? Anxiety, or some form of anxiety, like doubt, worry, or fear." Again, it's really helpful to look at any of your experiences with anxiety. Even something like procrastination can be a symptom of anxiety. Thanks for watching.